Welcome to the deep dive.
Okay, let's jump right in. We're talking today about those moments, we all face them, especially maybe here in Singapore's fast-moving career world. Those what now moments. Or maybe a fork in the road situation, could be an economic thing, a new job popping up, or just, well, feeling like you need a change. We call these career inflection points. And they often bring up a real mix of feelings. Exactly. And that feeling like you're pulled in a couple of directions, maybe feeling a bit unsure, that's what we're really digging into today. It's called ambivalence. It's when you feel both positive and maybe negative things about a career choice all at the same time. I bet for job seekers and career coaches too, here in Singapore, that sounds pretty familiar.
Oh, absolutely. Like you could be really excited about a promotion, better pay, right? But then you think, oh, the longer hours, maybe less time for, life outside work.
Yeah.
Or maybe a retrenchment happens. It could open up new pathways, sure, but there's also that fear, that uncertainty. It's not comfortable, is it? Feeling torn like that. But what if that discomfort, that very feeling, is actually useful? Maybe a signpost.
That's precisely what we want to explore in this deep dive. The mission today is really to understand how job seekers and coaches right here in Singapore can actually use this ambivalence, use it during those big career transitions. We'll look at research on careers, identity, how we see ourselves, and ambivalence itself. The goal is to see how we can turn this unsettling feeling into something that helps build, well, more authentic, more fulfilling career paths.
Okay, so let's break it down. Why does this happen? Why do we get this internal tug of war when we're facing a career change?
Well, these inflection points, they aren't just about looking at job descriptions or salaries. They really push us to think about who we are, our core values. You start asking those big questions like, what really matters to me in my work, my life, especially thinking about, the Singapore context, and who do I actually want to be professionally, personally?
It's like these moments highlight all the different hats we wear, isn't it? The worker, the parent, the friend, the person with hobbies.
Exactly that. And that brings us to this idea called identity complexity. It just means we all have multiple parts of ourselves that we value based on these different roles and interests. Think about someone here in Singapore. Maybe they're really committed to a demand and finance job, right? But they also really value being a caregiver for family, or they're really into their community sports team. These different sides of us, they can have conflicting needs, conflicting goals. Pushing hard for that promotion might mean less time for family or sport. That's where the ambivalence kicks in.
Ah, I see.
And because we kind of naturally want things to feel consistent inside, feeling pulled apart creates, well, friction.
Precisely. And that discomfort, it can lead to reactions that aren't always helpful. People might just, make a snap decision to stop feeling uncomfortable, even if it's not the best one. Or, like that example we talked about, Rachel at the consulting firm, she just put off deciding about that promotion, hoping the feeling would just go away. She loved the challenge, the network, her professional self was doing great. But all the travel, it was cutting her off from her life, her community back in Singapore. A real conflict.
Right, and delaying didn't solve it for her. She ended up leaving the firm anyway. So pushing ambivalence aside doesn't really work, it seems. It can lead to delays, maybe even sacrificing important parts of who we are.
Exactly. That avoidance, it can really chip away at our sense of purpose, even our well-being. But here's the twist, the really interesting part. What if this feeling, this being torn, isn't actually a bad thing we need to just get rid of? What if it actually has some surprising benefits? Okay, yeah, this is the part I was curious about. Benefits. It definitely doesn't feel beneficial when you're stuck in it.
I get that. It really doesn't. But research, interestingly, suggests ambivalence can be quite functional. Studies have actually linked experiencing these mixed emotions to some pretty valuable things, like increased creativity. When you're grappling with those conflicting feelings, it kind of signals that your situation is complex. And that complexity can actually push you to think outside the box, to find creative solutions for your career challenges, maybe right here in Singapore, that you wouldn't have thought of otherwise. Like maybe the tension between wanting more money but also more meaning leads you to explore a whole new field, or even start something yourself, ideas you might not get if you only saw one side.
So the discomfort itself makes us more resourceful.
In a way, yes. And there's more. Ambivalence has also been shown to make us more likely to seek advice and to do a more thorough job search. If you're feeling a bit uncertain, you're probably more likely to reach out, right? Talk to mentors in your network here in Singapore. Explore a wider range of options than if you felt totally sure about one path. It can also make us less rigidly attached to paths that aren't really working for us anymore. Allows for more flexibility, more agility in navigating Singapore's changing job market.
That makes sense. If you're not totally sold on something, you might be quicker to see if it's not the right fit and be more open to changing direction.
Exactly. And if we dig a bit deeper, research connects this ability to handle complexity, which is what fuels ambivalence, with building more authentic careers. Ambivalence itself seems linked to greater self-insight. When you're wrestling with these feelings, you really have to look closely at your values, your priorities. It also seems to foster open-mindedness, curiosity, being able to see things from different angles, all super valuable for job seekers figuring out their next move, and for coaches guiding people through it in Singapore. That internal debate forces you to ask, what really drives me? You might realize, say, that having autonomy matters more than the fancy title, something you might not have realized without that inner conflict.
So it's like the internal struggle pushes us to be more reflective, more open to different possibilities.
Absolutely. And it doesn't stop there. Ambivalence is also linked with being more receptive to feedback and actually making more accurate judgments. When you're not stuck in just a positive or just a negative view, you're often more open to hearing other perspectives, making more balanced decisions, crucial for navigating the job market or for giving good advice. Ultimately, learning to kind of sit with ambivalence, maybe even embrace it, can be a sign of growth. It can guide you towards a more genuine way of working and living right here in Singapore.
Okay, I'm definitely starting to see ambivalence differently now. It's not just noise to be ignored. It seems like it actually contains useful information. So how can people, job seekers, career coaches in Singapore actually tap into this? What are the practical steps?
All right, let's get practical. Step 1, and this is maybe the most important, take time to reflect. When that feeling of ambivalence hits, try not to just push it away or label it as bad. Instead, try to get curious about it. Pause. Really try to pinpoint the specific feelings, not just I feel bad, but what specific feelings. Remember, this discomfort can actually be like a beacon pointing you towards a better future career in Singapore.
So instead of just, I'm anxious about this change, it's more like, okay, am I excited about the new stuff, but also maybe worried about needing new skills, especially with the focus on upskilling here.
Exactly that. Feeling multiple things at once often means different parts of your identity are activated, things you value. And maybe there's a potential loss involved, whichever way you go. So ask yourself those deeper questions. Am I sad about leaving my team because teamwork is often a big deal in Singapore workplaces, but also proud of getting this promotion? Or am I maybe a bit embarrassed about a setback, but also, frankly, relieved to be out of a tough situation? This skill, using specific words for your feelings, it's sometimes called emotional granularity, is really powerful. Research shows it helps with managing emotions better. A key skill for navigating careers here.
That makes a lot of sense. The clearer we are about what we're feeling, the better we can understand why and what to do about it.
Absolutely. And don't feel you have to sort this out alone. Share what you're feeling with people you trust. Could be mentors in your Singapore network, supportive colleagues, maybe your career coach. Just talking through those mixed feelings often helps you see things differently, find more creative, integrated solutions. That collaborative thing can be really useful in Singapore's professional circles.
Okay, so step 1, reflect, get specific about the feelings. What's next?
Step 2 is simply give yourself time. Research is pretty clear on this. The benefits of ambivalence kind of evaporate if you feel rushed into making a decision, and that pressure to decide quickly, that can feel pretty common in Singapore's fast-paced work culture. So if you can, try to set realistic deadlines that give you some breathing room. Allow yourself that space to really listen to your emotions, to explore the alternatives properly. We really believe this lets you harness the useful info in the ambivalence and make a choice that feels more aligned in the end.
Yeah, that clicks.
Yeah.
Rushing when you're conflicted feels like setting yourself up for regret later.
Precisely. Remember the social worker example. She had that real conflict. Her commitment to nonprofit work versus needing to pay off student debt, a big issue for many young professionals in Singapore. Instead of rushing, she intentionally took time, did informational interviews, explored different sectors, including corporate roles. That exploration time broadened her view and led her to what we'd call an integrative outcome. She found a corporate role that used her skills and values and helped with her financial goals. We'd really encourage job seekers in Singapore to try that kind of active exploration rather than feeling they need an instant answer.
So view that uncertain period not as wasted time, but as active research.
Exactly. And the final step, step 3, is to remind yourself that nothing is forever. This is so important. Most career decisions, they aren't permanent life sentences. Think of the choice you're making as a decision for now. Career paths often allow for twists, turns, adjustments, even big changes later on. Knowing that can take a huge amount of pressure off making the perfect choice right now, especially in a dynamic market like Singapore's where things change.
That feels quite freeing, actually. Lowers the stakes, makes it feel less like you're locking yourself in forever.
Absolutely. And a good way to really get this perspective is to talk to people who are further down their career path or even retired, maybe through networking here in Singapore. They often have that hindsight, that longer view. They can help you see that one decision rarely defines everything. Interestingly, research even suggests that teams with age diversity actually make better decisions. So getting those different generational perspectives can be really valuable when you're thinking about your own moves in Singapore's multi-generational workforce.
So these career inflection points, they really just reflect our own complexity as people, don't they? All the different parts of us.
Exactly. And often we're kind of taught to see that complexity in ourselves and our emotions as a negative thing. Like feeling ambivalent means you're indecisive or you don't know what you want. And that can pressure us into choices that just try to squash that uncomfortable feeling. But as the research shows, that feeling, that ambivalence, can actually be really useful, really functional over the long haul.
It sounds like really leaning into those mixed feelings, understanding them, can actually point us toward careers that feel more whole, more authentic.
Precisely. By letting ourselves explore those competing goals, those different parts of our identity, we can find decisions that integrate them instead of forcing a choice between them. Ultimately, when people here in Singapore can accept that career ambivalence is, well, normal, maybe even helpful, they can start using those mixed emotions, see them as chances for growth, not just roadblocks on their career path.
So wrapping this up, our deep dive today suggests something pretty important for job seekers and coaches in Singapore. That feeling of being pulled in different directions, uncomfortable as it is, it's actually packed with insight. By understanding it, learning how to work with our ambivalent feelings, we can navigate those big career moments with more awareness and ultimately build careers that feel more true to ourselves, more fulfilling.
That sums it up perfectly. And maybe here's a final thought for you, our listener, to mull over. Think about a time you felt really deeply ambivalent about a big career decision. What might have happened differently if you'd met those mixed feelings with, say, curiosity and given yourself a bit more time to really sit with them? How might thinking about it that way change how you approach your next career transition or how you advise others navigating theirs here in Singapore?